The Season of Blood is coming October 17th, and we got the first half in the developer update from yesterday. So we're going to do a quick overview of this and see how we feel about it. So first we have the new seasonal event, which is the Season of Blood, where we're going to become vampires and get vampiric powers, which seems to be all related to your armor this time. They'll have so many slots that you can put packs. Using those packs, you're going to be able to get these vampiric powers that require certain amounts of packs across all your gear. We're not going to go right into details with all these, but it does look like a lot of these are going to make for some interesting builds this season at the very least. It looks super sweet, so I'm looking forward to digging into that a little further. The way the event is going to work, it's going to be basically, it seems like a Helltide, except it starts at level 1. And every time the zone of the Blood Harvest changes, it will be immediately after. So you will always be able to kind of farm these areas for the event. We're getting the farmable bosses now. It seems that these bosses, you'll be able to farm materials to summon them, to put them together on your team. And they all will have unique loot tables, so if you're looking to target farm something, if you have the materials to summon these bosses, you're going to be able to farm some uniques that you may be looking for your build. So that does seem interesting. We got new cosmetics and cosmetic mounts coming with these bosses as well. Season's rewards, whatever, there's a battle pass, kind of the same idea. But that's pretty much it for the Season of Blood and what will be happening there. Now we're going to go into the big stuff, the trove of quality of life updates. So we're getting the 5 new endgame bosses. So the new boss fights are unlocked based on succeeding in different tasks in Sanctuary. And you'll get these bosses from World Tier 3 and 4. The reward pools for these endgame bosses have been improved. They'll drop specific uniques exclusive to those bosses as well. And Duriel, the level 100 endgame boss, will give you access to Uber uniques. They aren't going to drop all the time, but it's going to be a lot more frequently than they are currently as a random drop. So farming for those Uber uniques is going to be a little more doable. And each of the new bosses have a unique cosmetic specific to that boss that you can also target for cosmetics. Endgame activities, we're getting Legion events on a shorter, reduced cooldown, so 25 minutes instead of 30. And you get a 10-minute warning timer now. Not a bad change. World boss fights are also going to be happening more frequently. Instead of every 6 hours, every 3.5 hours with a 60-minute warning. So this is actually really nice as well, because that 6 hours, there's like 3 times a day you can do it, and it's not going to meet everyone's schedule. So this should make it so it's a little more doable for people to actually do those world boss fights. And it looks like we're also going to get a global broadcast to all players when the world boss is 15 minutes away from spawning. So that'll come in handy. Golden experience words have been increased for Helltide chests, cashing in Grim Favors, and completing individual whispers. So a little XP bump, which is not bad. Nightmare Sigil rewards from Whisper Cache are within 5 levels of the highest one you've done. So it's not a huge deal, but that's good. It's still good, but it's not a huge deal. Helltide chests have a more appropriate marker on the map, which is very good in my opinion. Whisper Cache is here to the item slot of the cache. So now if you select boots, only boots will drop from it. The only one that'll have random ones will be the chaos ones. So that's also very nice. Big experience buff here. Big W. The time spent to reach level 100, they're making it the journey about 40% faster. And the experience gained from killing monsters at level 50 plus has been significantly increased and rises steadily as you level. So that's another big win there. It's going to be a lot easier for us to get to level 100, which will be very nice. Prevents monsters from being less powerful as characters' levels increases by making monsters in World Tier 3 and 4 match the current player's level at minimum after level 55 and 75 respectively. This increases the overall experience of leveling, so it should make experiencing leveling smoother. Incense now grant an experience bonus, which is nice. And the potency of experience bonuses from elixirs and seasons by making they increase the potency of the experience bonus by making them multiplicative with the world tier bonus, so that's really nice as well. Nightmare dungeons expedite demon slaying process, as the nightmare sigil now teleports you directly into the nightmare dungeon, so no more double load screen. You teleport to that dungeon, you're going in the dungeon. That's a great quality of life update. So avoided some players not getting nightmare sigils from dungeons that have no final boss. Nightmare sigils are now a reward upon completing a nightmare dungeon instead of the final boss defeat, which is good. Not crazy, but good. And also, objectives have been removed from some dungeons. Only defeating the boss is needed to defeat the nightmare dungeon. Big W. So basically, some of these dungeons, you're going to be able to just head right for the boss, not worry about much more, and hit any monsters along the way. So that, I think, is really good. We got some nightmare dungeon afflictions that have been updated. Close monster attacks the backstabbers. Basically, you'll become vulnerable, and the vulnerable damage is increased by X. The monster critical resist now is on a cooldown, so they're not permanently reduced critical strike damage. When you hit them with a critical strike, they'll get a reduced damage by X for 3 seconds, stacking up to Y%, so it'll stack so many times, so you can kind of play around that now. Monsters that explode on death for the death pulse no longer have a death pulse, and preventing death pulse from spawning repeatedly on top of each other, so that'll be nice. Lightning Storm should feel a little bit faster, because now being shocked while in the protection dome will give you a 5-second movement speed buff. The dome will only ever start if you are in combat, and the protection dome casters have a direct path to its targeted player, so if it's off screen, if there's a direct path to it, it'll go off, but if there's no direct path to it, it's not going to trigger that effect. And then the drifting shade duration reduced by 2 seconds to 3 seconds, and respawn time has been increased by 2 seconds, so you're not going to be dodging that drifting shade all the time. The massively reduced backtracking by placing all dungeon objectives on critical paths of a dungeon, making them much harder to miss by taking a wrong turn. So as you're seeing this now, you can see the example of how the maps are laid out before and how they'll be laid out in the Season of Blood, which I think is a huge win. Many dungeon layouts have been redesigned, improved the overall readability of traps by enhancing their overall visual effects and reducing their crowd controls. Now, this part, I believe they said crowd control in general is being reduced overall, not just for traps during the actual talks. End caps have been added to ensure dungeon layouts don't feel too linear. And to go with the XP buff that you're getting, the Paragon Glyph experience has been increased as well. They also made the dungeon events more worthwhile and enticing for players by increasing their monster density, as well as the NPCs that always die that you're trying to save in World Tier 3 and 4 should no longer get one hit, so we should have some more surviving NPCs there. So for the gems, the way it works, gems are now going to be a crafting material. There's going to be a gem crafting material that drops, and then you go to the jeweler, use those crafting materials to craft your gems, which will become an item in your inventory. And from what they said in the developer chat is you can actually disassemble or salvage those gems to turn it back into a crafting material. So that's awesome. You won't have all those gems clogging up your inventory. Prevented players from losing their progress on hardcore characters from connectivity issues. So if you have the Scroll of Escape, it's consumed if a hardcore player disconnects while in combat, teleporting them to a safe location. So good if you're playing hardcore. We're going to probably try hardcore at some point Season 2. So I believe that will come in handy if we're ever going to get disconnected or something. Knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen. Reduced overburdening inventories, causing unnecessary trips to town. So in World Tier 3, normal, magic, and non-sacred rare items will drop as crafting resources instead. And then in World Tier 4, normal, magic, and non-ancestral rare items will drop as crafting resources. And gold drop rates in World Tier 3 and 4 have been increased to compensate for this. So more gold from the World Tiers 3 and 4 from destroying monsters. Less garbage. You're only going to be getting those sacred in World Tier 3 and ancestrals in World Tier 4, and the rest will be crafting materials, which will come in handy for when you're doing your crafting. So that's, I think, a great change, and it's going to reduce how much you're having to shove in your inventory there. Reduce the chance of being locked into certain stats on legendary items by reducing their overall enchanting cost. So basically what they described is the initial enchanting cost is going to be up a little higher, but after that, the scaling for re-rolling is going to be less than it was before, so it should be a little easier to start rolling for those items. High-level monsters in World Tier 3 and 4 drop sacred and ancestral items of greater item power potential. So normal Whisper Cache rewards now provide plus 10 item power. Upgraded caches now provide plus 20 item power rewards. And Helltide Cache rewards now provide rewards of plus 20 item power level. And the new item power level cap is actually 920. So that's actually going to be, that's another 100 item level power that you can be getting. Reduce the time spent having to regain renown each season. So what they're actually going to do is your renown is going to carry over completely. If you want to do the renown stuff, you can, but you don't, any of the rewards you have, they're going to carry over. You're not going to have to do that renown grind every season now by the looks of it, which is fantastic. It was a horrible grind. No one really wants to do it. This also applies to hardcore characters. If renown rewards were earned on a hardcore character in Season of Malignant, those earned rewards persist for our new hardcore characters in Season of Blood, regardless of whether the previous hardcore character died. They wanted to make one thing clear, if I'm not mistaken. If the pre-season character died already that had all that renown, it's not going to carry over from my understanding. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere on Twitter. But if you've done all the renown grind in Season 1, and that you won't have to do it again on your hardcore character. I'm going to have to do this whole renown grind for my hardcore character because I haven't really played one yet. So we got a mission. Maybe I'll do that off stream. We'll see about that. So for hardcore characters, Altars of Lilith map discovery progress still carries over into the hardcore realm. Similar to the Season of Malignant, Altar of Lilith and map discovery progress for hardcore characters that died before the Season of Malignant will not persist. So yeah, those are the pre-season ones. Coveted items can now be marked as favorite. So you can mark the good items you want to keep as favorite instead of junk. And when you mark them as favorite, you can't accidentally sell or salvage these items, which is a really nice change. You get 2 additional character slots being added because the end of the season, they tend to do this, which is just a plus. 2 extra character slots. We're okay with this. Ease the ability for players that haven't completed the campaign to access seasonal content earlier by adding the option to skip campaign on character creation of if any character on your account has completed the prologue. Big win. Prevented wasted minion and companion attacks by ensuring minions and companions no longer target invulnerable enemies. So that's a huge win for companion and minion builds. Sweet. Mounts are getting a huge buff. They're less likely to get stuck on things. They reduce the time it takes to travel across Sanctuary by increasing the spur duration, which also breaks barricades. The base speed increase by 15%. It doesn't affect the top speed, but they will move faster in town now, which is amazing since you're not running in town. Remove the need for players to place their cursor on the edge of the window for max speed. Now it's more relatively about 40, I believe they said 40 to 50% of the screen to get that top speed. And improve combat and mount versatility by reducing ability cooldowns by 50%. So the manual dismount cooldown is now 5 seconds instead of 10. Forced dismount from damage cooldown has been reduced from 10 seconds to 4 seconds. And the delay between mount dismount combat skills becoming available after mounting has been reduced from 10 to 3 seconds. So using your mount ability is becoming a little more favorable. Town adjustments. In general, they added stashes in more helpful places and made things a little bit more easy to access. So they just made towns and better, in general, just better and more accessible without having to run all around all over the place, which is great. They're adding, so each zone, improved navigation through Sanctuary, fallen character creation by adding 10 waypoints to the list of automatically unlocked waypoints for those that skip the campaign. So there's 2 waypoints in each region. The players that choose to skip the campaign and haven't unlocked 10 waypoints on any of the characters will not be automatically available. So if you did the prologue and are jumping into the season, skipping the campaign, sorry, you got to get those waypoints still. But it's still, in general, getting 2 waypoints in each area is great, and then you can get the other ones fairly easily. Also, Stash is getting a search and filter functionality, so it'll be a lot easier to find those aspects that you need for your weapons and certain stats. So this is a big W. So we're getting some UI and UX overhauls. We just went over the Stash. You get streamer mode to hide sensitive information such as character names and BattleNet usernames. Organization by displaying item affix tooltips in a more intuitive and consistent order is going to be nice for when comparing your items and seeing what's better. Improved organizations by grouping extracted aspects with the same legendary power together when sorting in the stash. That's great. So you're going to have all your extracted aspects all together, so you're going to know what is what, which is really nice. Navigation functionality, they're adding an auto run. You can adjust the zoom level now on the minimap, so you can zoom out more so you can get a more clear picture of things. They're adding an option to hide all combat text, so when you see all those vulnerable dodges and fortifies popped up, you can mute those, which will be nice. It's a lot of clutter you don't need. Unique items are getting improved visibility, so when you see them drop, it'll be easier to identify them. Improved access to screen reader options. That is good for accessibility. Improved cursor contrast colors and options for versatility and customization. So, and then on October 10th, we're going to get a brand new update for this. So, all in all, I think this patch is showing that Diablo 4 is in the right direction. October 10th, we're going to find out more about all the uniques they changed, which is apparently most of them, class changes, and more. So hopefully we'll have another helpful update for us on October 10th or 11th whenever I get a chance. I might be a day behind like I am today, but everything is sounding promising after the developer update. This was a great update from the development team, and I'm really looking forward to hear what they have to say at the Campfire Chat on October 10th. Do you think this is a great update as well? Let me know in the comments, and I appreciate you coming to get your information from here, Malphasar. And I hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll catch you next video.